right, take a look here. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ all on pace for record closes. They're boosted by optimism on the continued rollout of the vaccines. A new bill introduced in the Senate today to increase those stimulus checks to $2,000. Well, many of the $600 checks are already in the mail, and investors are now looking ahead to see if an additional payment is coming in 2021. We bring in two of the best, Kaltbaum Capital Management President and Fox Business contributor Gary Kaltbaum, and Point View Wealth Management President and Chief Investment Strategist David Dietze. Gentlemen, hello.
Good afternoon, Lauren.
Happy New Year to you, Lauren.
Happy New Year, and we'll talk about if it is going to be a happy new year. But David, this new round of stimulus, do you think it could stimulate the stock market? I'm thinking new money coming in, retail investors coming in. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's going to be helpful, but I mean, this latest stimulus is something that they've been working on really since last September. So you have to believe that a lot of this is discounted in. Of course, there's perhaps just a little bit of sadness that the $2,000 isn't going to come anytime soon. I think that's dead on arrival in the Senate. Nevertheless, at the end of the day, Lauren, we're still looking at these vaccines. And of course, it's just great news that UK says they're covered by the new AstraZeneca/Oxford offering, and that's going to be enough to cover that whole area.
Yeah. Gary, I want to ask you that same question. Do you think this stimulus money, whether it's 600 or 2,000 or whatever it is actually going to stimulate the stock market and also the economy?
I'm not so sure about the stock market. I think the stock market has everything it needs right now with the guy named Jay Powell, as well as what European central bank's doing. But definitely it could help the economy. There are so many people that need money. Simple as that. We're talking about people that are up at 3 in the morning looking at the ceiling about how they're going to find some money to buy food for their kids. That's how rough it is in some areas around the country right now. So, yeah, that would definitively help. I'm not so sure we're going to get it. Looks like there's going to be a fight, and if we do get it, it may not be so soon.
Let's talk about the data, David, that came out this morning. Midwest manufacturing, surprisingly strong. But if you look at the housing market, contracts to buy homes, surprisingly soft last month. It's because, let's face it, everyone's moving. It's really hard to find a home to actually buy. There's no supply. And you were just talking about the Fed and the low rates. That's helping this market. But David, you know, prices have come so far up. That's inflation. Does that worry you?
Well, certainly longer-term inflation is going to be a concern. Of course, you have to remember that our friend Jerome Powell has been worried that he can't get this economy to get up to 2% inflation. So I think that down the road, but I think that's going to be perhaps a 2022 story. Now, on the weakness in the pending home sales, I think that's purely a reflection of the fact that, as you point out, Lauren, there is a lack of inventory. Of course, prices have moved up sharply since the end of late summer, putting it out of reach for a few people. So that's cooled it off. On balance, I think that we're in pretty good shape in terms of the economic data. As my guest pointed out, once these stimulus checks get out there, that is going to help tide us over until the vaccine is available to everyone.
Yeah, you know, Gary, at the top of this segment, I almost cringed when I was about to ask, what are the predictions for 2021? Because are we even in the business where we can make predictions when we're looking at what happens less than a week from today in Georgia? The race there, the runoff for Senate, is razor thin, and it determines everything. It determines how far Democrats can go in their push for higher taxes, more regulation, and the like.
I think it's a bigger election than the presidential election. The bottom line is if the Democrats do get the Senate, they've already promised that corporate rates are going to go up to 28% during a pandemic. All the tax cuts that President Trump did will go back to where they were. And that's money coming out of the economy into the hands of government that we know is inefficient and ineffective. And then let's talk about all the regulatory talk that's coming out. When we hear the words climate change, that's regulations. When we hear about the oil industry, that's more regulations. Too much getting their hands into the economy affects the economy. And, all this talk that they want to raise taxes to bring in more revenue, they're going to get less revenue because the economy will not be as strong if they just left it alone. And my message to President-elect Biden would be, just leave things alone and let the people do the job. And as we get more and more into the vaccine and things get better, the economy will get going again. We don't need to lower taxes, but I think that's wishful thinking from what I'm hearing.
And in the meantime, we're trying to figure out, how do we invest? How do we set up our portfolios for 2021? But we have no idea, because we don't know what the rules of the game are going to be because of this runoff in just a few days. But, David, they say as goes January, so goes the year. Do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I do. And I want to go back to the election a little bit. I'm advising my clients to get in before the election. I think no matter how it turns out, and I do prefer divided government, but even if the Dems take both seats, I think this market takes off from there. But it's just the uncertainty of what's going to happen. And let's face it, it's not going to be a Dem-controlled Senate. It's going to be basically 50-50. And what's really going to hold back on the regulations and the taxes is getting through this pandemic. When you have Jerome Powell, when you have Nancy Pelosi saying we need more stimulus, we need more help for the economy, the last thing anyone's going to do is raise taxes. Pretty soon you're into the midterms. So I think some of the bark on the campaign trail will be less likely to be seen as a bite. I think we just got to get past the election, and I think the investors will get back into this market. So I'm optimistic about January.
You're a bull, and you say get in before, so that leaves investors with today, tomorrow, and then Monday and Tuesday. You got 4 days, people. David and Gary, thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Thank you.